Alright, so there are so many updates on the Emmanuel Haro case that I'm not really sure where to start, to be honest. I have so many articles and so many TikToks that are saved in regard to this. I'm going to link the original video down below because this will be the second time we're speaking about this. In the original video, at the time, this 7-month-old baby, Emmanuel Haro, was quote-unquote missing. Now, immediately within that first video, I also showed you that nobody really believed that he was missing. It seemed more like something more suspicious had occurred, and a lot of this was centered on the mother and father's behaviors on online interviews or online calls for help, whatever you want to call them. People were already seeing something is wrong. Now, from there, going back in time, we saw that Jake Haro, the husband, had a criminal record that included being violent towards children, and there people already were like, okay, something's wrong. So a lot more information has come out, so we're going to go over that. So let's start with the fact that the parents have been arrested under suspicion of murder. I'll link all the articles I'm referring to down below, the same with the TikToks. Emmanuel Haro wasn't kidnapped, deputies. Hours after Jake and Rebecca Haro were arrested at their home in Cabazon, the sheriff's department said they are now searching for the infant's remains. This investigation began on August 14th, 2025, as a reported kidnapping at the Big Five in Yucaipa. The San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department immediately dedicated all available resources to locate the 7-month-old Emmanuel Haro, the department wrote. So there's a small little recap paragraph that basically says that after seizing evidence, they don't think that there was a kidnapping based on, I'm assuming, also footage from the cameras in the businesses around the parking lot where the kidnapping supposedly occurred. I'm assuming it was shown that there were no actual kidnappers, attackers, anyone. It is believed Emmanuel is deceased and the search to recover his remains is ongoing. Sheriff Shannon Dykes said, "The circumstances surrounding this investigation are tragic and we'll continue to search for Emmanuel. I trust our justice system will hold the parents accountable." So this is where the bigger update comes in, is when we find out that there was blood found in the home. So it says that blood was found in Emmanuel Haro's home and photos of the baby had been removed from the house in addition to all of his clothes. Police grew suspicious of the mom's kidnapping claim due to inconsistencies in her story and declined to be interviewed further when they confronted her. I want to focus for a second on the concept of there being no baby photos or photos of the baby around the house generally, and the missing clothes. Now, surface level, these are not like crazy things, but if you think of day-to-day life, your kid goes missing. Why would you get rid of their clothes, right? Like, why would anything change in regards to their clothes, first of all? Also, it's like, how long has this baby been missing that clothes aren't immediately necessary? Like, why would you get rid of the clothes? There's nothing that you can tell me as an answer to why are there no clothes that makes sense or that is consistent with people being innocent, right? On the contrary, I'm not here to police anyone's grief, and I do think it's grief here because I do think the child is dead. But even when you lose someone, it's not really a typical thing to do that they die and the first thing you do is like, hey, guess what? I'm getting rid of any sign they ever existed. Just gonna say that. Now, obviously, if you're a murderer, I don't know how your mind processes all this, but the fact that there were no clothes and no baby pictures around the house suggests and has a lot of people asking, how long has this kid been dead? And that's really the question here, because I don't think there's any real doubt that this child is dead because, first of all, it's a 7-month-old baby, and if anyone has him and is taking care of him, I guess that's a possibility, but realistically, if this were an older kid that was missing, I could think, okay, maybe they're surviving, maybe they're elsewhere, but this is a 7-month-old baby. Like, unless someone has him, obviously he's dead. At this point, I don't really know how there's any doubts, really. I think it's a question of accumulating evidence, which again, there's been blood in the household, there are no pictures, no clothes. I don't really know what to say about all of that. Now, the conspiracy theories are starting to become quite intense, and I don't know if any of these are accurate, but there are also small indicators. For example, in the arrest video of the Haros, which I'll show you.
The San Bernardino Sheriff's Department has now released the footage of the arrests. You can see Rebecca right here, and just give it a second, you're gonna see a close-up of her getting loaded into the car. Let me just do a little duck around, and I wanna share some new information with you too, and what some sources have said. There you go. Looking like a troll, getting put in the back of the car. And then we're also gonna see Jake in a second here, which it's crazy because Jake's face in this, when he's getting arrested and cuffed, he looks like pissed, as though they're wronging him. Now, while we wait for the rest of the footage to come on screen, according to some mainstream media outlets, sources have confirmed that there was a presence of blood found in the home. Let me move out of the way so you can see Jake here. We don't know how much, and we don't know exactly what that entails, but sources have told them that. Like, look, he's like, ow, ow, ow. Like, don't you just want to, like, punch him square in the face? So that's that piece of the news. We also know they are being charged with murder with malice. Well, Jake's stuff hasn't been uploaded into the system. I would imagine for sure that charge, possibly even more.
I'm not shocked about the arrest or anything. I'm shocked about the hair. Did you guys see the video? Like, this woman's child is supposedly missing, and she has fresh highlights, and it's completely silky and fully washed, and she got her nails done. Like, I'm in disbelief. That actually shocks me more than literally anything about this whole entire case. Like, I get that she had highlights before this, but these are definitely brighter, and her hair is super silky, and the nails are new. So I'm like, your baby is missing, and you're grieving your child, which is such weird wording when they're saying their kid is missing, but you're grieving your child, but you just got your hair freshly done and your nails done? Like, make it fucking make sense. I know this woman's gonna play the victim card and say that it was a DV situation and she was scared to tell the truth, but no, she dug her own hole and she's gonna lay in it now, because nothing would stop me from speaking truth about what happened to my baby. She truly gave a shit. She wouldn't have got her hair done, her nails done, and she would have said something to police a long time ago. Doesn't matter if she's being harmed at home. She could have said things to the police in private many, many times. So I'm glad they're both getting what they deserved.
You can see that her hair, Rebecca Haro's hair, looks like it got done. This is what the TikTok investigators found. And it looks like her nails got done, apparently. I didn't look into all of that, so you can check. If that is true, however, a lot of people were already comparing Rebecca Haro to Casey Anthony, because realistically, if your kid is missing, quote unquote, then in what world would the priority be to get your nails done, to get your hair done? And that's not to say that you should let yourself go, because you have to be in shape to go through something that traumatic if you're innocent. The concept of your child is missing and you're going to the salon is crazy. Another of the bombshells that broke is that there is a, or another, depending on how you look at this case, killer in this family, and that is Rebecca Haro's brother. So here it says, investigators have since turned their attention to the parents using cadaver dogs during a search of the family's home and seizing Jake's vehicle along with cell phones and other electronics to preserve and process any potential evidence. It has now emerged that Rebecca's brother, James Bushausen, was convicted of murdering his girlfriend in their Palm Springs apartment and staging it as a suicide, according to a source with knowledge of the family. The brutal killing, according to reporting from the Desert Sun, unfolded on March 15th, 2017. Jalen Amanda Keith, 27, was found dead in the bathtub of the couple's apartment with a single gunshot wound to the head. Bushausen, described by prosecutors during the trial as a gun enthusiast, struggled with alcoholism that led to rehab stints and relationship problems with Keith. The 27-year-old woman was reportedly at a breaking point with his drinking, telling family members a day prior to her murder that she was going to leave the then 35-year-old. Prosecutors also said Keith grew scared at one point when Bushausen took a pistol from his gun safe, prompting her to later hide the keys to the safe. All of this becomes more and more suspicious the more we find out, because first of all, the odds of having two killers, allegedly two killers, in a family are low enough that you wouldn't necessarily expect it, let's put it that way. Now, obviously, having a brother who is a murderer doesn't automatically make her, Rebecca Haro, a murderer, but I will say all the suspicions we have that are piling up on top of having someone who has committed a crime that I think I saw that he was spending a long time in prison for too, it doesn't seem like those things would be completely disconnected. Now, there are a lot of people who are also looping in the parents in terms of saying that the mother knows what's going on, or that the mother is somehow involved, that Rebecca Haro's mother, that is, the mother of two alleged killers, as people are putting it online. I don't know about all of that, though at this point, you kind of think that the family does know something, because you have someone who's in prison for murder, you have someone who's under suspicion of murder and has been arrested, and the parent it feels difficult that they wouldn't know anything. Then again, we don't know what type of relationship they have. We don't know how close they are. So the thing with the brothers' case is that there are loose similarities. By that, I mean, investigators allege that the jury believed that on the night she was murdered, Bushausen knocked her out, put her in the bathtub, and shot her in the head while using the shower curtain to shield himself from blood spatter. He then told a 911 dispatcher and responding emergency personnel that he'd been sleeping when his girlfriend took her own life in the bathroom. Detectives found a head wound independent of the gunshot that suggested Keith had been assaulted and her death had been staged to look like a suicide. As the investigation continued, Bushausen quit his job and moved to McAllen, Texas, where he was arrested on October 18th in a shopping center parking lot by investigators from Palm Springs. Nearly a year later, in October 2018, he was sentenced to 50 years to life in prison for Keith's murder. While Emmanuel remains missing nearly a week after the alleged kidnapping, Vincent Hughes, the Haro's attorney, insists his clients are innocent, telling KTLA the couple has been pleading for information and updates and providing whatever information they have. The lawyer also said law enforcement has made attempts at searching for the baby outside, searching the Haro's property, and the locations the couple told investigators they've been to. Now, this is another point of this case that's interesting that I've seen people commenting on online, is that apparently this lawyer is what they're calling a Timu lawyer, which, rough. But anyway, this lawyer apparently is not doing the best job in terms of defending the Haros, mainly because if you recall, when the baby was allegedly kidnapped, one of the first things that Rebecca Haro claimed was that she turned around because she heard someone say "Ora," and that's really all we have. So part of this case is also, in some people's opinions, the kind of racializing of it, of immediately turning it into Spanish speaker, which has implications that the person was potentially Latino. Who knows? But the implication is that if you hear someone say "hola" to you in Southern California, is the first thing you think about a white person? I don't know. Probably not. That's an argument that people are making because of this already ridiculous claim of like, oh, someone said hi to me, so I turned around and got knocked out, and that's how my baby went missing. But then there are all these other inconsistencies that make it so it's not credible that your baby went missing or that you were even knocked out in the first place. On top of that, the lawyer has made some statements allegedly that are questionable.
We officially have surveillance footage. In the case of baby Emmanuel and the mom whose tears identify as visible. Her tears identify as visible. We have learned that there is surveillance footage coming from the liquor store across the street, and law enforcement agents did show it to the mom, and it shows her getting out the car, falling, and getting back up and running toward the Big Five. And then this the part that get me. The dad's lawyer comes on and says, well, that corroborates everything she said in the beginning. Something fell, something got back up. Sir, there was no Ola present in the video. There was not another person. There was not a shadow of another person. Like, what are you saying? They say, the people are saying at this point, the lawyer needs to lawyer up. I mean, they're saying they got this lawyer off Timu because what are you saying that corroborates her? Sir, it directly conflicts in every way possible. There was no Ola present in the video. So I know we're getting one step closer to an arrest, and I know we will all be rooting for justice for baby Emmanuel because you guys already know as I get the updates, I'll bring them to you guys. I'm Tiffy Blessed.
Okay, and another interesting thing that's also related to the lawyers, police say Rebecca Haro has declined to be interviewed further when they question inconsistencies in the story about Emmanuel's disappearance and that detectives haven't been able to rule out foul play. Jake Haro's attorney told Banfield on Tuesday that Haro wants to cooperate with police and has handed over all his electronic devices and passwords. The attorney told News Nation that Rebecca Haro, whom he is not representing, agreed to a lie detector test if her lawyer could be present, and that both parties could not agree on terms. Jake Haro's attorney has gone into hiding, fearing for his own life amid death threats. So then it goes on to talk about Jake Haro's past and the child abuse, and that's something we've already covered, but nonetheless, it seems like the lawyers too are going into hiding, so this case just becomes weirder and weirder.
Yo, so we're not gonna talk about how Jake Haro had a brother named Hector Haro, who supposedly unalived himself in the same home that Emmanuel Haro stayed in? According to Rebecca Haro's ex-husband, Jake Haro's brother Hector supposedly unalived himself in the residence, and in that case, Rebecca and Jake Haro were the prime suspects. This story is continuing to get crazier by the second. As we all know, there was a fire up the street from the Haro residence. Investigators have not stated if that has any connection to the missing case of Emmanuel Haro, but I definitely will keep you guys updated. Make sure y'all like, share, repost, and follow for more of the topic show.
Another complicating factor in all of this is that it seems like Jake Haro's brother, Hector Haro, it seems like he killed himself in the household, the one where Emmanuel Haro used to live. So I looked this up and I couldn't really find a lot of articles describing this or detailing it in any way that's I can give you more information on, let's put it that way. So that's something that's been out there. And if that's the case, then this becomes even more confusing at this point because it just seems like all of these people are surrounded and shrouded in some type of death. Now, the fact that these are all people who are related to makes it even weirder. It seems far less coincidental that we have another person who's dead, another person who's a murderer. It's just extremely odd. The more that's coming out, the more you can somewhat make sense because it seems like there's something off with all of these people and it seems like they have something in common. But at the same time, it also makes less sense because it seems so difficult that all of these people would have the same problems or the same issues that would lead them to taking another's life, lying about a baby being kidnapped, abusing children. There's just so much there. Okay, so the last thing I wanted to mention, now this is something that has kind of been mentioned before in terms of this case, but there are some people who are rushing to protect Rebecca Haro because they assume that the husband, Jake, is the one who was actually, quote unquote, the bad guy in all of this, as in there's this assumption that she was being abused by him, which is not a crazy assumption considering his criminal record, but that she was being abused by him and that she too was a victim as opposed to being an accomplice or potentially a murderer herself. There's this kind of shield of protection put over her because of her husband's criminal record, but I don't know if it's also just because she's a woman, because she's a mother, people want to think that mothers can't do horrendous things like this. I don't really buy any of that because regardless of what's happening, she did hide the fact that the child was potentially killed. So even if she is not the murderer, she is an accomplice. And granted, there may have been abuse or other things going on there. I'm not going to comment on that because I don't know. But to assume that she also is automatically a victim, she's also a parent. So we can make that argument both ways. Regardless, because there are some people who are trying to basically find her innocent in some way or another or make her seem more innocent than she might be, includes people showing clips or pictures of what she looked like earlier on and what she looks like now. Now, I'm not saying this person's video that I'm showing is on her side, mind you, but here you can see how she changed between 2020 and I think it was 2024.
Alright guys, so we did some digging and we found some comparison pictures of Rebecca Haro of her in 2020, 2022, and now. Crazy difference.
As much as there may be a visible physical difference between her in 2020 and relatively recently, I don't think that can necessarily be attributed to anything we know, right? So, of course, it could be that she's living in a relationship she's not happy with. It could be an abusive relationship. It could be basically anything. It could be just being unhealthy. Honestly, we could guess anything that it could be, and it very well could be that. So I don't really see much of a point in pointing out this difference if we have nothing to point to in terms of this is probably what caused the difference. Regardless, a lot of people are using this as a way to say that they think that Jake Haro is the main perpetrator and that she just was kind of there to a degree. And maybe that is the case, maybe not at this point. Every day there's new stuff coming out and every day it becomes weirder and weirder. So honestly, I don't know what to say, but I do think it's a bad idea to rush to justify or vilify anyone. I think we can just all agree that both parents are incredibly suspicious. I personally think they're guilty, but I have no idea on who's more guilty. If it's not 50-50, who knows, right? So of course there's been an update since I last filmed, wherein now there's footage of the police seen searching an area by the freeway with Jake Haro, Emmanuel Haro's father. And then there's some changes in terms of the records. Here I found a TikTok that goes over all of that.
Major update in the case and trigger warning. This is probably going to make quite a few of you very angry, but Jake Haro, who was out seen with investigators today, his charges have now been removed from his arrest report. Here you can see his arrest report with the charges. It used to say murder with malice, no longer there, next court date, no longer there, and the bail amount set for 0000. What it used to say was no bail. And what's crazy, on Rebecca Haro's report, no changes have been made. Here's Rebecca Haro's murder with malice is the charge. August 26th, looks like it's 8 in the morning. And of course, this is speculation, but typically what we see when two couples are arrested, they typically turn on each other. We have Rebecca Haro saying in jail, "I will not give up on my baby." But today, you had Jake Haro searching with detectives to try to find baby Emmanuel on the side of Freeway 60. So it's not clear at this hour if prosecutors struck a deal with Jake Haro, if they helped to locate the baby, they removed the charges, or if they're waiting to update the charges because Jake Haro is helping in the search efforts. What are your thoughts about all of this? Write in the comments below. If you have any more details on this, please DM me. Your thoughts right below.
So, as the TikTok implies, here we see him helping the police, which has a lot of people thinking, along with what we saw in the records, that he spoke up in some way and that everything is being put on Rebecca Haro. That's the conclusion a lot of people are drawing. Another conclusion is that he's collaborating with the police, which, I mean, I think is pretty much obvious from the footage we saw, from the photos we saw. To what degree, to what extent are the charges towards him actually going to be dropped, or is he innocent? Is he actually free? At this point, there's really no idea of what's going on. However, he is clearly helping the police in some respect. It seems like Rebecca Haro is going to be the one who's going to be taking the blame, quote unquote, for this, or is guilty of this, however you want to put it. Anyway, you guys can let me know what you think in the comments down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you to my patrons as always, and I'll catch you guys next time.